What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi here, alone, flying solo. She's still at his daughter's graduation. Again, congratulations to her and the fam. We are going to be talking a little baseball today. I'm not going to be doing the game by game. There's so many games, and I have a pretty targeted focus as far as hitting goes. And yeah, let me share my screen, and I'll sort of talk through some of the plays. I did put this stuff up on the site. The site's still a work in progress, but we are getting it together, and glad you guys are all checking it out and signing up and everything. I know there's some hiccups, but that's why we're beta testing, and we are getting to everything so we can add some pretty cool new stuff. We just added Pierce Dietrich. Shout out to him. He does the NASCAR stuff. He'll do some baseball with us as well. So the site, we're growing, and we're happy you guys are a part of it. So anyway, on to the slate. So pitching is beyond loaded. It's Okay, so the way I'm breaking it down is I am going to rely on umpire data and things like that, which we don't have all of that yet. We do know it's it's an excellent hitters umpire in the San Diego Milwaukee game, and both those pitchers are interesting. So I am putting a little less of a priority on Burns than I thought I would. I mean, this guy struck out at least 9 guys in every game, I believe, this year, and it's just really been awesome overall. It feels weird to not want to play him, but then you see the other options. Scherzer at 10-7 would be my preferred. I know DeGrom will probably have a reasonable leash, and he's been throwing really hard, and he'll probably be great. I'm slightly preferring Scherzer over him. Price discount, Scherzer's been really good, super consistent. Did have that weird outlier 4 walks and sort of a little bit of a wild game against the Cubs in that one time out. But overall, I think stands to be as a really reasonable chance to have the best score. The problem is, I think there's better options that really you're not losing that much in some other spots. Again, DeGrom, completely legitimate option. There are some value hitters, but overall, the way I'm stacking, which is mostly going to be Minnesota and Atlanta, we can't get as much value in those games. So I am looking down a little bit. And my top owned guys right now, I love Lucas Giolito. You get a National League team going to an American League park that's full of righties for a guy who's really, really good against righties. And if you put those righty dominant lineups against him, he just usually owns them. Weird teams like KC always seem to give him trouble, but most of the righty dominant lineups, he's really good. And we got to see the ceiling. The part that concerns me is I don't like playing pitchers off of their season high and pitches, are not as quite a season high through 114. But I just would rather it would have come after the KC game because they tend to maybe you see the 95 range instead of the 110. And I mean, I guess if he's really going, they're probably going to let him go, but it doesn't seem likely that he'll have 110 back to back all that often. I think you'll see some mixes and matches, and you see his other 100+ performances were all after shorter, little bit shorter outings, well, under the 100 pitches anyway. So interested in the umpire data if we can get that on this game. Again, St. Louis, it's not that they're not a capable lineup, but it's a lot of righties, and Giolito is good against righties and excellent K stuff. So I really like Giolito as a pivot off of what should be a very chalky Corbin Burns, and I do like him even in addition. You can play them together. I'll play those guys. Again, bad hitters umpire, but there's you still with excellent pitchers don't always have to worry. Burns does worry me a little bit in that environment, and Musgrove as well. But again, it's only because we can nitpick because it's so many good options today. Even if it's it's not like any of these guys aren't awesome plays, and it wouldn't surprise me. Aaron Savale is actually would have been in play on another slate for me here. Not going to do it on this slate. Same probably with Hill, Kluber. Not going to do any of that. I think Kershaw at 8K. I don't care that it's Houston. I think it's a little too cheap for a guy who's as consistent as he is, and I think that look, you had the one weird outlier game against Miami and Chicago. He's had a couple weird games this year. That was really just one inning. Overall, he still is an excellent pitcher. When he goes out there, you should expect six innings plus 6 to 8. You should expect against everybody. Maybe 6 or 7. You should expect more than a strikeout an inning, and you can expect often to see zeros, but you should expect somewhere between 2 and 3 runs most of the time while he's in the game. And I think that even against a Houston team, because he's so cheap, I just feel like, and then obviously with all that said, there's plenty of upside on all that. He's probably a little too good of a pitcher to be 8K. So it just sort of stood out a little bit to me. Kevin Gausman has been absolutely awesome. You'll notice the price difference on FanDuel where he's like 10-7. He's been unbelievable. Arizona's not a lineup that strikes a ton of fear. I'm wondering about the roof being open still early enough to where we don't know yet. That will probably dictate a lot of what I want to do there. But for right now, I do have Gausman as one of my top spend downs at pitcher. My other one being Andrew Heaney, who I just think is the great boom bust play you can ever have in a great matchup against a Texas team that's the best hitters are lefties. On the flip side, I don't mind a little bit of guys like Adolis Garcia, especially on the other side. But I did want to point out that I think that you can play a Gausman Heaney lineup and potentially get the same results or similar results as if you played. Look, you're not going to get the same results every time. You're going to have a chance at getting similar results to a DeGrom, Musgrove, Scherzer situation. Remember, they're not always going to be perfect either. And going sort of along with all this, I'm looking to see if there's anybody else. Barrios is another one that on another slate we'd be talking about against Baltimore here. Good hitting conditions in Baltimore, but Barrios has enough. He's a good enough pitcher to where you would consider him usually, but not with between Burns and these other guys. I like Giolito. I like the other guys better, and even Kluber. I think you can make an argument for because we've been pointing out with him. Unfortunately, again, coming off a no hitter, probably not the best time. He did only throw 101 pitches, pretty amazing. He pitches himself into shape. This is what he does every year, and he starts off slow, and he starts getting better and better and better, and that's what usually happens with Klubs. So, good sign for the Yankees fans. Good sign for Kluber in general. I don't know if I'll be getting to him today, but sort of fits a similar situation to Kershaw, except for I think his Kluber you could argue is in the worst spot. They're both tough, but there's a lot of good options, and I'm leaning. Most of my lineups right now are not most. I have the most ownership in Gausman. Who else do I have? I have Gausman, Giolito as my probably two highest owned. Heaney, Burns, Scherzer, Kershaw, and DeGrom in sort of that order. It's subject to change. We don't have all the umpire data, but that's what I'm doing. I did post my hitting plays of the day, my individual plays on TrueDFS, and my favorite stacks, but I'm going to go through them. Favorite stack of the day is going to be Minnesota and Atlanta. I think Garrett Richards is it's a weird pitcher. He's a guy who can at times be really good at in tough spots and also can get roughed up. He's looked really good his last X number of games. I like the way this Atlanta team matches up against him. I like that it's in Boston in good hitting weather. It looks like the wind's blowing out. And I think that if, for a patient team like Atlanta, you might see those 3 or 4 walks come early and then maybe the floodgates open. And I think that's a great way to stack on this kind of slate. You want to try and play for the real the go nuts stack, and I think that they certainly stand as one of them for me. The priority is always going to be Acuna. Freeman, obviously a great play, but I love another guy at first base today. I love Albies, a little bit more expensive over here than FanDuel, but I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with him here. I love the way he's been swinging the bat. Riley's cheap. Swanson's cheap. Ozuna is the less interesting to me, but I'm happy to play him too. And then you've got, if you want to punt with Inciarte to go full 5-man, I don't mind that. And then also, I'm not going to leave out whether I'm assuming Contreras, who I think this guy can hit. I think people sort of have missed out on this guy a little bit, and he's got enough power to be interesting. And also, you put him in part of that stack, and he's expensive. I don't know how high. I mean, I'm not worried about ownership too much today, but I think that he's like an excellent part to add to the stack because I'm trying to combo stack Atlanta and Minnesota, and it's hard to do without trying to use, because Garver's so expensive, without trying to use some Contreras. And obviously the Minnesota thing might change a little bit for me if we get bad news and as far as the lineup comes. There's a lot of guys who could be there, but the weird part is I still think I'll have interest because I love the spot. I've been a fan of. I don't think Kramer is like terrible, and he's had some decent outings. Let me say he is terrible, but it's the home runs and the walks are just making me like go, I need to stack against this guy. I need to get some action. I don't like the bullpen they have behind him, so that helps even more. I love Miguel Sano in this matchup. This is a guy who gives up power to righty bats and lefties, but righties as well. And I think you've got Sano who's actually heating up. This guy's going to strike out, he's going to walk, and he's going to hit home runs. He works as everything for me today, depending on where he's in the lineup. I'm assuming around 6th is where it'll be. Also love Kirilloff. You can play both of them together if you put Kirilloff in the outfield. I like Arias as a spend down to sort of fit a floor. Probably prefer it for a 5-man stack because of the lack of power that he has, but he can be a part in the mix in a lot of things and get 9 to 15 or 17 fantasy points without hitting a home run. So if he does somehow go deep or do something like get an extra base hit rather than the singles and scoring runs, it's obviously a big he's basically just a value saver. Donaldson, a great price. He and Riley are a little back and forth. I'm doing quite a bit on DraftKings. I like the 4,100 for Donaldson. I don't know what's going to happen with Cruz, Polanco, Kepler. Kepler, if he plays, definitely one of my guys who I like. I think I prefer Kirilloff to him, but it's really close. Don't be surprised if the way he's Garlick's swinging, if he somehow stays in, even against a righty sometime. And Taylor Larnach, one of the top prospects in the system. I think he's really got talent, and I think he's got power. So batting even probably near the bottom of the order, probably 7th or 8th. I still like Larnach quite. I know I'm not pronouncing it right, but quite a bit. And Nelson Cruz, obviously at 6K, but you have to pay for these guys. That's sort of the deal. And then the guy who I'm just sort of not finding enough of, and I'd like to play him even. I'll get him in some lineups as Garver just because of the price. And I'd rather. It sounds weird to say this, but like I'm finding myself paying down for Contreras over Garver, but it's not that much of a pay down. So I probably want to get a little more Garver in my lineups. But those are the stacks. That's how I'm doing it. I think this Yankees situation is going to be extremely, I'm guessing, very high owned. Again, it's scary to me a little bit because Matz has had some tough matchups lately and he pitches in the park that's really hard to measure. But then again, Yankee Stadium is a great hitter's park, obviously, too. It's just not the Blue Jays field this year. That's just like a whole different version of things. But Steven Matz is an effective enough, like even when he struggled against the Boston the other day, he was staying in. They kept him in through 6, even giving up hits left and right in that tough hitting and great hitting environment. Same thing with Philly when they came to Toronto. They had, but he actually ended up really holding them in that one. He pitched really, really well. Pitched out of some tough jams when they made a couple errors, I believe. Anyway, this is not a guy I'm talking about playing. I'm just thinking about in terms of stacking against him. Doesn't really feel like as much of something I want to do as I'd rather get a mini stack of the Yankees. I'd rather play the Judge, maybe even Andahar, but he hasn't done anything yet. But he is 2,800. He fits into more full stacks, I would think, because you've got Torreyes and Urshela, third base and shortstop, and then shortstop for Torreyes. Torres. Oh, too many names I had to go through today. And so those guys, all those guys I like as a little mini plays or stacks or even one-offs. But I just I don't think that I'm going to be fully stacking the Yankees as much as some people do. And it always scares me against the lefty to not do that. But that's where I'm at so far. Favorite other stacks. I like a little bit of Cleveland. They've got some cheap options in their lineup today and a good matchup against Skubal. And then obviously the horrible bullpen behind him in Detroit. Looks like pretty decent hitting weather as of right now. It's hard to play Cleveland with the Luplos sometimes because how many at-bats are you going to get from him? Is Rosario going to play? Do we get Ramirez at 2,600? All of those guys. And then you've got Owen Miller, who's probably going to play in that, around 6th or 7th, and he's 2K. And then you pair it with a Jose Ramirez and one of these outfielders, which if Rosario's in, I don't mind him against the lefty. And then, it's going to be weird what they do because it's a lefty, what they do with the nailers. I don't know what they're going to do, honestly, with all that. And whoever does end up catching tonight, I think would be an in play as a cheap option. It feels a better. You've got Rosario also at the top of the lineup. I shouldn't have left out, who's reasonably priced, and much more reasonably priced on FanDuel. So I think that they're interesting against Skubal there. I think the mini Dodgers stack against their old teammate. You get the Kershaw Greinke matchup from the old days. Let's see who can swing the bat now a little bit better than he could in the past. I think is Austin Barnes, and people said he improved his power in the offseason. You don't really get to see it much from him because he doesn't play every day, but he'll obviously be playing tonight with Kershaw starting because he catches Kershaw. But I think that he is another spend down option. I was looking at it. Hard to find the individual bats to love. I think that if Will Smith is in the lineup, I actually like him as a catching option. I mean, he might be playing first base or something like that tonight, or playing DH. Assuming they'll do something like that. Muncy, all of them as individuals, maybe a little mini stack is where I'm at. I did think that like Lux, and then obviously we have to see who's playing. But I just think that I'm not going to play Greinke. I'm not going to fully stack it, but I think getting a couple Dodgers is not the worst idea in the world. I particularly like the catchers against their former pitchers, so maybe that's why I'm a little biased. And then my other stack would be, I think the Red Sox are just always in play. I don't like stacking against Morton, but they're more of a mini stack I would look at. And I think Baltimore as a mini due to the hitting conditions and the fact that like more it's just a guy like Santander who's only 3K against Barrios is not a guy I want to pick on terribly. But Santander at 3K definitely stands out as a potential play. Been swinging the bat well. Just missed another home run last night for me. That would have been nice. Hit the top of the wall out there. Okay, so then just to highlight my favorite individual plays. As one-offs too. I didn't mention Tampa Bay. I think they make for an interesting mini stack more than a full stack for me because I like some other full stacks better. Meadows, Rendon, Upton, Adolis Garcia, Nomar Mazara, Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, Miguel Sano, Josh Donaldson, Kirilloff, and then we have to wait for the rest of the Twins lineup. Dansby Swanson, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies. I think I might have already mentioned Albies. And yeah, that's pretty much where I'm pretty targeted on my hitters today, and I just don't think I'm going to deviate too far from my main stacks of Atlanta and Minnesota. And it's we got some big tournaments tonight. The Gold Glove, 250K. I'll be playing one in there, and then I've got a bunch of the other stuff that all of the 250s and all that stuff. So good tournaments tonight for me. Hopefully it's we run good tonight. We will be with you at around 6 Eastern, I believe it is. It's going to be a short show because I should have a buddy on with me, but who's an excellent sports gambler and a guy who runs another site. But if I don't, I will do it solo. It just has been slowing down when I've been playing many lineups lately, and we just updated my system and my software and everything, and it's still going a little slow. So I'm supposed to meet with the lady today. So hopefully we can get it fixed and get our team back on track and doing better live before lock shows. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Ask any questions. I'll be around in Discord, and good luck to everybody today. And let's go true DFS. Let's have somebody take something down. Somebody take all the money and share it with us. All right, guys. Talk to you guys soon. See you at the top of the leaderboards.